Greetings and salutations. I hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below, merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? All right, so today's upload is going to be divided up into two segments. The first segment I actually was thinking about doing while I was doing yesterday's upload on 3I Atlas, the comet. I believe it is a mothership. It is breaking all of scientific theories and any kind of rational scientific studies, whatnot. Just nothing about it says normal. And from it producing its own light, to it not having a comet tail, to its kind of backside facing away from the sun, making its own projected course, its travel speed, everything about it is just wrong. And something natural, or something occurring, I guess naturally occurring, would not do what this thing is doing, per scientists. But yet, here's the thing. How do they know? I'm just going off of what they say, and they have been studying these things for a lot longer than I have. So anyway, I believe it's a mothership. And I was looking into some very interesting things. As all of you guys know who have been with the channel, I am branching off. There will be a Dogman experience at the end of this, but I want to start talking about things that interest me and many of you guys, the connections. There are massive connections. People fail to realize them or even talk about them. Now, throughout my research on Dulce, I have read and shared with you guys a lot of very interesting stuff. The Montauk Project, the Montauk Chair, where through psychic ability, a host or person was able to conjure some sort of monster that wreaked havoc on the whole facility. Interestingly enough, when everyone was questioned about what the monster looked like, no one had the same exact description. It ranged from 5 feet tall and leather skinned to 10 feet tall and hairy. Wings, no wings. Yellow glowing eyes, red glowing eyes, black obsidian colored eyes. Multiple people that have seen it. All different kinds of descriptions. Now, I have shared a thesis that I read a while back from the University of Hawaii, and it talks about inorganic beings. These inorganic beings are living beings in a dimension adjacent to ours, right aside of ours. And they essentially are feeding on our fear. They feed off of our fear. They can replicate what our brain is thinking, our fear. They will replicate it. Let's say they choose to feed, and for some reason I'm home and they want to attack me. They come out as a crawler. They come out as, for other people, for me, probably a crawler. I'm dead terrified of those things. I would much rather see the Dogman that I seen back in 1994, or have the experience that happened to me when I was up at Tom Mezek's. But to me, the crawler is the most scariest creature out there. I believe it is part reptilian. I believe part reptilian, part gray, and part human. And all of the bad things that make up all of those three genetic markers. So the worst of humanity, the worst of the reptilians, and the worst of the gray. But yet, the intelligence of all three combined, and the danger. So, to me, they're terrifying. These inorganic beings would produce themselves as this to me, feed off of my fear, disappear, gone. Psychic vampirism. For a little kid who is terrified of gnomes or whatnot, a little freaking foot tall creature under his bed, possibly Bigfoot, possibly Dogman. And I'm not saying these are the reasons of these creatures. No, I'm saying these creatures project themselves as this. Now, they do have, or supposedly they do have, their own essence and their own description of what they look like in their dimension. Now, what happens when, so I just did the Montauk thing, but what happens when you are a scientist and you figure out a way of hooking an infrared camera up to a telescope and taking thousands of frames per second or per minute of dark matter? You break the dimensional barrier. What kind of photos are you going to get? There was a scientist who did this back in 2017. And when he did that, he captured some very interesting photographs. His name is Daniel Nemes, and he was a Spanish scientist living in Colombia at the time who had invented a device called the Energy Vision that was able to photograph interdimensional or multi-dimensional entities. He claimed that he used an infrared camera hooked up to a telescope to shoot thousands of frames of dark matter and then running the algorithm to highlight mathematically related pixels. So when doing that, he produced photos of these entities. And I'm going to share with you the photos that he claimed were from that experiment, that project. And I showed them to Isabel two nights ago. And I was talking to her about this. Isabel is my daughter, my youngest daughter. She went with me to the Conjuring house. She is fascinated with the paranormal. She actually wants to be a demonologist. That's her career choice. That's what she wants to do. And I encourage her to do that, to be honest with you. It's her job, or it's her life, and if that's what she wants to do for her job, go for it, bud. Just make sure you're safe and protected. So I share these pictures with her. Now, mind you, we went to the Conjuring house. She did the Esty method there, where you put the spirit box, headphones on, blindfolded. I'm asking questions to her. She can't see me, she can't hear me, but I'm asking questions. And that is a very terrifying thing to do. You're in the dark, you're hearing just these random, strange words get blurted out. But then to be in the Conjuring house in the upstairs bedroom is next to a room they call the birthing room. So imagine how frightening that would be. So I show her these photos and she instantly goes, I don't want to see these anymore. She's like, these are terrifying. And I said, bud, here's the thing. I said, these are demons. These are demons that are coming through portals, coming through these wormholes, interdimensional, multidimensional, hyperdimensional, coming through, and their natural appearance may be these tall, spindly legs, spindly arms, bulbous heads, just demonic looking creatures / aliens. I will show you all of the photos in a few minutes, but I want to share with you more of this. So, controversial images he took this way reveal eerily symmetrical face-like figures. They do appear to show something, some type of creature, but there is interdimensional beings. Most of them all appear to have like almost like a selfie. But here's the thing: when doing these photos, when he was taking these photos, they were not manipulated. But what happened was he's taking shots with an infrared camera on a telescope of dark matter. So when feeding these photos into a computer, into the algorithm mathematically, figuring out where all the pixelation would be, this is what was produced. And I believe that is what I believe CERN with the Hadron Collider is trying to open these doors. We can't open them. They can, but we can't. They try to open these doors to get these creatures. To use them for what? And who's to say that they're going to be easily maintained? So anyway, this gentleman, after he shares all of this information with everyone, he disappears, never to be seen again. He posted a lot of these pictures on like his Instagram and Facebook. A large portion of his research had been wiped off the internet back in 2018. And then he disappeared completely from public. Um, the images are truly terrifying. And here's another thing that we have to look at when thinking about these photos, when you're looking at them, is this is the only way we are able to take photos of a dimensional figure. You know, there was a time when Einstein was looked at like he was a crazy man for suggesting there was multiple dimensions. Now scientists have said straight across the board, there are many dimensions all around us, micro universes. There are creatures in them. That's what that thesis from the University of Hawaii had talked about. So I'm going to share the photos with you now. They are quite terrifying to look at and quite interesting as well. This is before AI. These were posted in 2017. These are not new, and these are legitimately the photos that he took with a telescope and infrared camera and pointing it to or at dark matter in thousands of frames per second, or minute, excuse me. You're going to get hundreds of per second, but imagine the stunning, just imagine being him when he done. And then here's the thing though, where'd he go? Did the government take him out? Did these interdimensional beings take him out? Either way you look at it is a terrifying question with probably more terrifying answers to that question. Here are some of those photos. And while you guys are checking out those photos, I'm going to share with you guys some information on hyperdimensional beings. Psychic parasites. Let's get into it. The first photo that you are seeing is Daniel Nemus. This is the scientist who disappeared after supposedly sharing all of this information and photos. Now, these photos, once again, were pre-AI and fed through a computer mathematically and via a mathematical algorithm pixelated to form these. They could have formed anything, but this is what they formed. Psychic parasites. Instead of diving headfirst into a more esoteric aspect of this ongoing intervention into the affairs of humanity, let's gradually wade ourselves into the deep end of the waters by highlighting one of the main attributes of their modus operandi. The facet referred to is the parasitic quality of their nature. More specifically, it is the notion that they literally utilize our energetic dimensions as a food source for purposes of their own survival and expansion. We see this peculiar operating principle in great poems, including Homer's and Virgil's works, where the gods routinely are described as swooping over the savory smoke of the sacrifice to claim their food. Whether it is the fields of mythology, magic, or shamanism, or modern-day scientific settings, we constantly uncover this particularly particular aspect of their character, as can be gleaned from selected quotes below. The gods did smell the Savior. The gods did smell the Savior sweet. The gods gathered like flies around the men making the sacrifice. The Epic of Gilgamesh. These elementals live in a soul realm of man as long as he lives, and grow strong and fat, for they live on his life principle, and are fed by the substance of his thoughts. Magic, White and Black by Franz Hartmann, M.D. They took over because we are food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their substance, just as we rear chicken in chicken coops. The predators rear us in human coops. Therefore, their food is always available to them. The Active Side of Infinity by Carlos Castenda. They are attracted to emotions. Animal fear is what attracts them the most. It releases a kind of energy that suits them. Another Carlos Casendia. Fire from within. They were interested in emotion. They feasted as they made love. Rick Strassman, M.D., quoting a DMT volunteer speaking of an insect-like reptilian creature. When reading through the above quotes, one can only help be reminded of that now famous scene in the movie The Matrix when Morpheus initiates the unnerved Neo into the desert of the real. With an appearance of sheer befuddlement and bewilderment, Neo is told the following: "The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into his," holding up a battery. While some may recoil at the thought of living in an illusion, mentally projected world and being regulated into indentured servant status by the ruling elite, whether machine-like or not, the truth is that the Matrix analogy fits quite nicely with our current-day reality. The only slight differential, as far as we can tell, is the fact that we are our own masters, as it is we who built and sustain our own personal prisons. This highly regrettable state of affairs is encapsulated in the following quote taken from the film My Dinner with Andre. I think that New York is the new model of the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they have built. They've built their own prison. And so they exist in a state of schizophrenia where they are both guard and prisoner. And as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made or to even see it as a prison. So, interesting thing is, and I've said this in live streams, and I've said it in other uploads and such when I'm talking about the paranormal, but I've often wondered if you were to go to a mental institution and seek out someone who had schizophrenia, seek out 10 schizophrenics, and let's say there was a marker for schizophrenia, right? Let's say there was a genetic marker or some sort of gene marker, whatever you want to call it, a genetic marker to really know this person is a schizophrenic. It is a physical genetic marker in their blood. Cannot be denied, right? how many out of those 10 would legitimately be schizophrenic, and how many out of those 10 would not be, but actually have a more of an open eye to what is really going on around us? There are those folks that are like hyper that have the ability to see psychically or whatnot. Like when Montauk Chair took place and they summoned that creature, and those who saw the creature saw it as a different being than other folks that saw it. So these hyper psychics, these just exceptionally gifted or or not gifted, I mean, is it a gift to be able to see demons? What if, that's these, so you've got this marker, schizophrenic, and then you've got the people who aren't, but they have this hyper psychic ability to see dimensionally. How many of those people would be out of that 10? Would they be equal? Would they be more towards the genetic marker? I'm saying, I believe my own theory is that I bet you probably 3 out of the 10 are not or do not have that genetic marker. Just are very in tuned with, everything that's going on around them. So it would be a prison. It would essentially be a prison for these people in a mental institution, constantly seeing demons, getting fed medicine that doesn't work for them because they don't have the genetic marker, which to me is terrifyingly torturous. It's not right at all to do. So then there's this. It's important to understand and stress that when these gods are suppressed, they turn into veritable demons. Quoting again from Dr. Jung in his work, Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, we find the following. We also know that it is dangerous to suppress it, because the unconscious is life, and this life hums against if suppressed, as happens in neurosis. As a result of the suppression of the instinctual roots of the unconscious, the world is now engulfed in flames of psychic psychosis, as a psychic split has emerged within the collective consciousness of humanity. Thus, our current impasse is a function of sheer insanity. This is a world in which we are being paganized, brutalized, and debased in what this phrase of the alchemical great work, a world in which we are literally being fed on by a force. We hear it every day. Relentless chatter about how our leaders are completely mad and how everything around us is inverted, corrupted, perverted. As Dr. Elner, the author of Hope is Realistic, writes, just look at us. Everything has backwards. Everything is upside down. Doctors destroy health. Lawyers destroy justice. Psychiatrists destroy minds. Scientists destroy truth. Major media destroys information. That's true. Religions destroy spirituality, and governments destroy freedom. As an interesting side note, look how Dr. Jung medically defines the term insanity. This is Carl Jung's version or his definition of insanity. Insanity is possession by an unconscious content. Dr. Jung again. Possession? Where have we heard that from before? It is from the process of possession by the reptilians and other low vibrational entities that we have ancient tales, indeed modern ones too, of demons. Devils and evil spirits taking over human mind and body. David Icke says, Eckhart Tolle, for thousands of years humanity has been increasingly mind-possessed, failing to recognize and possessing entity as not self. All right, so those are the photos that he had captured with this energy camera. That last photo, the last one, the red one, the orange one, whatever color, orangish, yellow, red, doesn't it look kind of like a Dogman? A little bit. Like everything else looks demonic. Everything else reminds me of an alien or some sort of demonic creature. But that orangish, yellow, red looks very similar to a silhouette of a Dogman to me. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just saying it looks pretty interesting. Now, what if his disappearance was the government shutting him up, the government quieting him down, just, you've kind of done enough. We're going to scrub as much off the internet as possible. Leave some stuff up and kind of also build a narrative that you're a hoaxer. And then people will either believe you, but they're the ones that are looked at like they're crazy anyway, or they won't believe you and they'll think that you're the crazy one. Now, the government has done this many times by discrediting people, creating their own narrative, and essentially assassinating them either physically, financially, emotionally, whatnot. I really, truly believe, and you can't, and I've said this for months now, I truly believe that these aliens, these alien greys, these alien reptilians that people talk about, the Dracos, are demons. Interestingly enough, Google and YouTube are one. And because I talk about this a lot, because I've been talking about the Anunnaki and the fallen angels, the Nephilim, Book of Enoch, Morg, big YouTube channel. I guess he was a magician. He's a ex-Christian truth speaker. And he's sometimes interesting. I will say that. A lot of times I don't agree with what he says. I don't watch him too often. But he did a video. I did a video a month ago talking about how the fallen angels came down and gave us information that essentially, if you really look at the information they gave us, was information that brought us to where we are today technologically, agriculturally, spiritually, whatnot. They taught us how to metal make, how to this, beauty, different things. And I had said, why were they put or shown in a light to be demonic? And, it's because God didn't want this information gifted to us. And almost like what the alien/demons did in the 30s, 40s, and 50s by, here, give us your people, let us abduct some, and we'll give you this great information or this great technology so you can nuke a whole country and wipe out hundreds of thousands of people. Because God knows what we will do when gifted too much information. We're little destructos. But this Morg guy had said, what if they were the good guys? I don't know about that, but I do have to, I do agree with, God gave us free will. They gave us information. They gave us, sacred heavenly information and other kinds of technology, whatnot. But what do we always do when we're gifted too much? Humanity always does something crazy. So I was saying, it struck me as odd. Like, I did a video a month ago in this huge channel, 1 million subscribers at least. Maybe a little more, maybe 500,000, but just huge, absolutely huge. Talks about the same thing I talked about. And I was like, holy shit, man. I'm like, I'm not the only person that thinks like this, which was kind of cool, because sometimes I feel like I am. I'm sure a lot of you do too, This is interesting. It was very interesting because I thought that. I thought for a while, I was like, whoa, why did God punish everybody if they just taught us how to metal make, taught us how to garden, taught, how to create beauty products, metal, trinkets and this and that, and on top of other things, magic but the more essential was the metalworking and gardening. But then they, so I don't know. It was just interesting to me. But anyway, I really think that, these demons probably, I think what he did, very similar to how he created these photos, taking them from dark matter, running them through a computer, mathematical algorithm. Boop, here's this pixelated photo of what these demons, these multidimensional demon creatures look like. What if he unlocked some sort of portal by using that mathematical algorithm and they came out and took him out? They were like, pfft. And just imagine, those freaking pictures are eerie. It's almost like the Cenobites come into your house, It's pretty scary. Anyway, let's jump into part 2 of this upload, some subscriber-submitted Dogman encounters. Today's first encounter comes to us from a subscriber. I'm not going to share her real name, but we'll just call her CBTS, and we'll just call her CB for short. And I'm going to share with you the whole email so you can hear who she is. Because I think that's important. It's when someone shares their experience, you kind of have to get to know who they are as well as hearing their experience. So I've been a subscriber for a fair amount of time, and I really enjoy your experiences. It amazes me how you have experiences to share, and the only reason I can place that on the table is these encounters are just happening more often. That's not true. The encounters are with the internet and with people sharing experiences. People are getting more comfortable and wanting to share. 10 years ago, we had the internet, but we didn't have we didn't have groups like mine, groups like other channels, Dark Waters, What Lurks Below, I think, or Beneath. Great channel, amazing channel, 1 million subscribers almost. I mean, Jesus, the guy is doing phenomenal, and he's spreading amazing experiences. So good for him. Good for Dark Waters too, and How to Hunt. I don't listen to these channels. I listen to James. I listen to Dark Waters, but I see what other channels are doing. I pop up in my feed and I'll quick look at them. All right, awesome. But it gives everyone a place to be. Just because I don't listen to channels, this is all I do. So why am I'm going to sit and listen to a Dogman experience while I'm creating uploads about dimensional beings and then sharing subscriber submitted Dogman encounters? No. I literally watch videos I watch some dumb videos, to be honest with you, that don't fit into the category of. But the reason why there are so many experiences is because, and it always strikes me as odd when someone says that. It's like, all right, you're not listening to the date. This woman's experiences are 93, 94. They're not new, but she just decided to share them. So on top of so many people being comfortable with sharing now, we have more places to share them. So, it's not, I guarantee if you took a group of 20, sat them down and said, hey, out of you 20, how many has had a paranormal experience, which would be cryptid, alien, UFO, UAP, poltergeist, ghost, whatever. It all fits together. Portals. You list that like that. And I would literally say, and I probably wouldn't be wrong, 15 out of 20 has had some sort of fucked up, crazy experience. So it's not, the world isn't blind to these. They just don't like talking about it because they're either afraid of it, they're afraid of sharing, because they think it may come back to them, or they don't want to get ridiculed. All right. I appreciate and I like her theory, but I have had, like, God, in the last year, maybe 3 or 4 new experiences within the last 2 years. So, here we go. I was listening to a different channel, and this young fella conveyed his experience with a Dogman and ended with him setting foot on a church property, supposedly preventing the Dogman from coming further and thereby protecting him. He swore that his religious beliefs saved him, and then said something in the meaning of, the people who have been killed and worse don't have their hearts right with Jesus or their Savior. But I entirely disagree. I absolutely disagree with that too. I 100% do, and feel there's different reasons. Maybe the guy had bad BO. Maybe the Dogman just wasn't interested in chasing and not catching. Who knows? Poor souls were no less part of the divine and no less loved and treasured by that which is. As a result, I feel compelled to share my own experience. I truly agree. Brad is a spiritual dude. So spiritual. Like I cannot express how much his love for God and Jesus. Like, he is just, and to hear his experiences, you would not think that. Like, unless he says it. But I've had numerous conversations with him, and his love for Jesus, his love for God is just 100%, right? He does not agree with any of the BS people say, and I say BS because I believe it too, that people are like, you got those weird women and weird dudes that are like,
just before you go into the woods, say a prayer and they won't attack you. They won't attack you. You don't need to bring a firearm with you because if you say a prayer, they won't bother you.
Okay, maybe a few, maybe, but doubtful. And then let's say you don't run into a Dogman or a Bigfoot or a crawler, right? But you run into a bear or a frickin' mountain lion. And you've got prayer, but you got no firearm. Are you going to say the Lord's Prayer to a bear as it's coming to eat you? You always got to bring a firearm with you. I've heard experiences where prayer didn't work, where they just kept coming, you know. And here's another thing is if these things are part demon, not all demons are compelled to run when they hear the Lord's name. Some are so powerful that they don't care. Some are so old that the Catholic religion, those prayers don't even resonate with them, you know? So, you know, and I love Jesus. Everyone knows because of Dark Waters, James Williams, I love the man. I have so much love for him. Because of him, he brought me back. He brought me back to Jesus, my Savior. I was so mixed up when he and I first started talking. I believed in God, obviously. I believed in good, orderly direction. That's the way I looked at it. But I had been baptized, First Communion, confirmation, you know. So, like, I'm not pissing on that. I'm saying sometimes things like that don't work. You always should have a weapon or some sort of device to protect yourself with. I always have my Caltac with me. I always have a couple of knives, and I have an air horn. Because my first thing is if I see a bear or a mountain lion, I'm not going to shoot it. I'm going to blow that air horn and hopefully it scares them. Second, I'm going to blast it. But, you know, anyway, experience time. I used to drive between San Antonio, Fort Sam Houston, and El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss, several times a week. This happened in 93 or 4. I don't recall the exact year, and I'll clarify in a later in the story. I always went the same way, I-10, back and forth, no side quests, and came to really dislike the drive because it's almost 10 hours of driving and there's nothing to look at. There are rocks, scrub, and more rocks and scrub. There was so little traffic that I could have just pulled over to pee, decided to run around nude for a half an hour, and had no fear of being seen. I kept water bottles, a sandwich, and CDs in the passenger seat and road tripped in style. During the daylight portion, it's not too bad, but after sunset, you got to be careful. Road hypnosis is a real thing. Doing 80 plus during the day is one thing, but you have to be more careful after dark because that's when the deer move and, of course, traffickers who bring other people in the back door would blast my music and sing loudly and badly to entertain myself. After 5 p.m. or so, traffic dials down a lot. And until just after dark, I'd see headlights coming at me every 30 to 40 minutes or so. But after that, I would rarely see another traveler. I just passed a sign to Fort Stockton, and my next trip marker was Ballamora? I knew it was 10 p.m. or so, not sure, but it was fully dark. I'd worked most of the day before I left and knew to be careful and be on the alert. You never know what you'll see on a trip like that. And I'm a woman and was traveling alone. But I started to see shadows run alongside my car. They didn't jump and wheel fade away and come running again. They jump and wheel fading away and come running again. I knew it had to be road hypnosis, and I thought to myself, there's no way that's real. Next, I'll be thinking it's a wild hunt. Shook it off, splashed some water on my face, laughed it off, thinking it would be a good story when I finally got in. I hadn't hit Balmora yet and came over the hill. As I crested it and the headlights pointed downward, I saw two glints, like my headlights had reflected off of someone's glasses at the bottom of the hill. Being stranded in the desert is no joke. People die, so I slowed down and had a bottle of water in hand. Thought I'd offer to call someone for them when I got to the next town. Weirdly, they seemed dressed in black as far as I could tell, and thought it was just a trafficking coyote or a lost immigrant, so my nerves were on high alert. I slowed down more, 30 to 40, and got a lot closer, but something was all wrong. This person was standing right next to the speed limit sign, and they just didn't look right. I got closer, turned my brights back on, and could not believe what I saw looking at me. I used to live in Michigan and was a hunter. We would go out, and I would be the only girl. And at night, everyone would be telling hunting stories, and they would tell about the old man of the woods and the Michigan Dogman. I laughed and blew it off as a bit of hazing and did not worry about it. Good stories, though. But in the present, on this highway, my mind was a blank. I'm looking at this person, no glasses, just eyes reflecting. I'm looking down at their feet. Their feet were long, and I could see the tendons on the top of her hairy head. Slowing down at a quick glance, said it had claws. The legs were turned like a dog, and I saw something move behind it, and I'm thinking, oh, it's a tail. It curled and bounced like an Acct or a German Shepherd. Keep in mind, this is all happening very fast. That's when it straightened up, and now there was no doubt about it that this is not a stranded traveler. It stood on its hind legs. This thing topped the speed limit sign. In Texas, they are 7.5 feet tall. This cleared that by a good 6 inches. The creature was covered in black or dark brown fur, even its feet. But the abdomen and part of its chest had less hair. I could tell that it was definitely a male and slightly extended. Its skin was taut, no fat, no flab. Its chest was broad, but not like a bodybuilder's. It was hard, and I could see ropey muscles move beneath its skin, kind of wiry. The arms were too long to be a human, and it had paws/hands, but with overly long fingers and long claws. The neck was thick and heavily covered in fur. When it cocked its head, I could see muscle play under the skin, and further down its chest I watched its nose move like it was sniffing the air, and it was looking at me. It had a muzzle, but it wasn't long proportionately as a German Shepherd. And even with a muzzle resting, I could see that its teeth. The head was huge, and its eyes faced forward. It had pointed ears, but not high like a Doberman, maybe like a cat, proportionately, that is. The eyes were terrifying. They were either reflecting my lights or had their own glow. I don't know. I was rolling on idle, and I was in shock by this point. I still had a water bottle in my hand, and the window down an inch. I was sitting with my wheeled sardine can that's clock full of don't eat me pheromones just flying out. 1 inch space in the window. I looked into its eyes, and it looked into mine, and then it friggin' smiled at me. I got a good look at its teeth then. Terrible things. I've seen angry bear teeth in videos, and they looked cuter. I remember it lifting its right arm, leg, it spread its hand, paw open, and it was clearly bigger than my head. It was not friendly, howdy neighbor kind of gesture. That broke through the shock, and I found the accelerator and hauled ass out of there. Deer on the road be damned. Driving away, I was equally looking back to make sure that it was not following me. Trying to reason with myself, I did see the shadows running alongside the car earlier. I started the trip late, and I was already tired, so it had to have been a hallucination, right? I drove past Ballamora and don't recall the little town I pulled into. Gas station was closed, but the lights were on. I didn't know where to find a local grocery store, hoping to park underneath some more lights. So back to the gas station. I locked up tight and tried to get a little sleep. Every sound made me jump out of my skin. Wind, leaves, tumbleweeds, whatever. But I did manage about an hour of very broken sleep. I just wanted to get to Fort Bliss and forget about it all. I eventually made it to Fort Bliss, and not knowing how to tell anyone this insane nightmare tale, I tucked it into the proverbial back pocket and stamped it done. Over the years, I have told this funny experience about an 8-foot-tall black cat I found hitchhiking in the West Texas desert who wanted a ride very badly, and that's the craziest hallucination of my life. No drugs at all. It was a good experience at parties to share, and I laughed about it every time. People actually would ask me to tell the story. No, I don't do drugs, smoke the devil's lettuce, nor do I drink. Fast forward 2 years ago. I'm looking through YouTube and I find something interesting. Selected some trail cams. Who doesn't like wild kittens and trash pandas, right? I know there are a bunch of wackadoos. 90% of what is online is not true, but I wanted entertainment. A trail cam started from my feed, and I'm halfway through the video and my brain froze. Where was my hallucination on my laptop? The skull was more feline, but it had the same ropey, wiry musculature and general shape. The stature, kind of raw intensity. Maybe males and females are a little different, I don't know. I've lived all over the world, and I've seen all sorts of wild animals. Wild cats, bear, wolves, bunnies with pointy teeth, all of it. But how did my hallucination end up on someone else's trail cam? And that's when I started to research, and that's when I discovered it wasn't a dream. I saw a Dogman. That's that. I found your channel, and I've been a faithful listener since. We are not at the top of the food chain. It could have torn my car open. There was no doubt in my mind that I drove away that night because it let me. I've told this many times in all of those years and never considered the date to be important enough, so that fell by the wayside. 93, 94 is the closest I'll get. All right. Dang. Yeah, that's absolutely terrifying. You're on a 10-hour journey through Texas. That must be a terrifying journey of its own, you know? Like she said, there's just road and more road and nothing but tumbleweeds and dirt and I mean, geez, crow, how. And then the road hypnosis is truly an absolutely real thing. Anybody who's driven longer than a couple of hours has had it. Heck, I think I've had it a couple times just being overly tired and driving on the highway. But to see this massive creature, she's a good soul, you can tell. Very good soul. With it possibly being a hitchhiker or a homeless person, just offering them the water. Maybe I don't even know. Maybe it didn't attack her because it sensed goodness in her. But I don't know. Really, really interesting encounter though. Great detail too. So thank you, CB. With that, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories, judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.